Hey, what's up, weirdos? This is Jonesy, the host of Weird AF News, and we're doing a nice bonus episode for the YouTube channel here. Something I haven't done yet on the Weird AF News YouTube channel, and that is do a video interview, this time via Skype, all the way to Massachusetts, my home state, with a Mr. Eric Bickernicks, who is the author of a very weird book called Strangeness. It's a fictional paranormal book, and I have to say, I got it this morning, and well, you sent it to me yesterday. I read it this morning, the first couple chapters. I was surprised to see that it was fiction, and I was delighted to see that it was fiction, because a lot of the UFO stuff that I read, I think I mentioned earlier to you, is like it's a lot of nonfiction. It's a lot of heavy stuff, and it's like sometimes it's dense. This was very light. It was funny. There was humor. I liked it. A fictional book about UFOs. The book covers some paranormal activity that occurs around the Cape Cod area and how that affects the community there. Did I nail that?
Right. Also, yeah.
Also, yes. So.
Hey, was there a theme song? What happened to the theme song? Are you editing the theme song in? So I have to know what was the theme song? Yes, there was a theme song.
Oh, I don't have a theme song for Weird AF quite yet. We only have a theme song. We only have a theme song for Florida Fridays, which, if you've listened to the podcast, that's a thing that people are crazy about.
A theme song. Right.
So Eric, yeah, give like sort of just a little synopsis of the book, and then we'll get into like what your intention was with this story.
Right. Basically, if I have to advertise it, it is based on true events, or should we say inspired by lots of true events. Of all basically the classic stories, all UFO incidences, that I remember that were notable. I just dumped them all into a story, basically. And I'll be talking about, in my mind, like I said, I'm a failed filmmaker, so this would have been a film script. Who's going to buy a film script? So I had something to say about UFOs, alien, extraterrestrial life, and just put it in book form because, I put it in an essay, a blog post, who cares about that? This whole thing just sinks into obscurity. At least I said it. At least I have it down on the book.
And the events in the book, are they based on true events that occurred in Massachusetts, or you've kind of cherry pick them from other places?
Yes and yes. One example is Bud Hopkins.
Yeah.
The book starts literally in Truro with a V-shaped craft flying over Truro and having a bunch of cops chase after it. That's based off of the Illinois UFO. I got my notes over here. And there's a Phoenix Lights on March 13th, 1997. It was a V-shaped thing.
Yep, very famous event, the Phoenix Lights.
Right.
Yep.
Two events in there. Obviously the flares that fell behind the mountains, but the V-shaped thing was cool. The Illinois UFO, it's a triangle-shaped thing, January 5th, 2000, in Lebanon, Illinois. A bunch of cops saw it, and there's a bunch of video out there of what they saw. That was a cool thing. But it literally starts with the location of Bud Hopkins. Bud Hopkins was an author now. He wrote Missing Time, documented story of UFO abductions. He sort of started the whole abduction craze.
That's right.
Kind of wrote about it. And he literally had a sighting in August 1964 in Truro. He saw another, thing in the sky, And I've literally driven, I've been down Route 6A, Route 6. And so I've been to the spot. So I figured, all right, let me just basically combine all this stuff. Why not start it there? And basically the premise is, I got some more. I got my notes here. But basically, what if a UFO came back to a certain spot in a little tight community, and obviously it would attract all sorts of people, weirdos, believers, because knowing that typically a UFO just comes by once. It's like, okay, it's gone, no one ever saw it. But if it kept coming back, people will be waiting for it.
Yeah, what comes to mind to me is what happened in Fatima,
right.
where the angel kept coming back every 30 days for 4 months straight on a certain day.
Nice and big, right?
And the crowd got big, and it started out with just the 3 children, and by the 5th visitation, or the 4th visitation, there was 80,000 people witnessed this event. Yeah, it becomes like a religious experience for all
Right,
these
and
people.
that's basically, and then at the end of the book, it does turn it slightly into that. I have a whole, it basically devolves into that also. But that's the whole thing is imagine putting 80,000 more people onto Cape Cod, as tourist season starts. Basically, the sighting starts at the beginning of tourist season. It's sort of like analogous of there's a tourist invasion every season on Cape Cod. Well, basically,
That's right.
the alien invasion coincides with the tourist invasion, which for the locals it drives just people nuts. Because if you're a Cape Codder, there's a whole thing of like, these damn people, they're in my face. It's like, well, yeah, it's a tourist economy. It's supposed to happen.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
add in even more people now who are obsessed of waiting for the UFOs. Religious people, the cult leaders, the UFO whatever experts. As example, I've sort of combined a bunch of cult leaders into one sort of UFO cult that basically wants to have sex with the aliens. The guy who I'm calling Click, basically is waiting for the Fornications. Who are from the Alpha Fornicus is historical Alpha Fornicus from the Fornax constellation, and they just want to have sex with the aliens. They don't want to, and that's sort of based off of Marshall Applewhite of the where's my notes here? Applewhite. So yeah, Marshall Applewhite of the Heaven's Gate cult. No one's killing themselves, but just, to me, the whole conformity thing is just funny when you take it to that level, literally. I know it's tragic. I'm supposed to, yes, but that guy. There's also another man called Billy Mayer.
Billy Meyer, yeah.
Well, yeah, Billy Meyer.
The raw aliens, right?
No, are you talking about the Raelians?
The Raelians, isn't that it? The Raelians. That's
the third batch of people, third group that I decided to combine. So I've got the Applewhites, the Raelians, all sort of put into this one guy called Click. And like I said, their whole thing is they're waiting for the mothership to arrive, and they think this UFO is their mothership. So they started, recruiting people from the area.
And it's
just, I find it interesting.
It's like, and it's important to bring in this because there's a major difference, it seems to me, with, it's anyone who's paying attention, there's a major difference between the UFO phenomenon and then the UFO community, which is a social phenomenon that's quite bizarre and often, based on some sort of like, there's some personality disorders over there. In general, and that's saying it nice. That's saying it very nicely. Yeah, let's be real. It's there's some crazy people over in that community, and they're not doing a service to as far as getting behind what this phenomena is whatsoever. In fact, they're just being a distraction. A group that a cult that wants to just have sex with the aliens. This is like that. You're not helping the problem here. But I love that you went there because this is a funny book, and you're parodying, this group, and I think it's great. It's hilarious.
Because in fact, the guy, my main character Ken, he starts. His whole thing is like, look, there's aliens out there, but this fake UFO footage. He needs to prove that the fake UFO footage is fake. What can be done, and then we should look at the real footage. So the book starts with him making a fake crop circle with the intention of saying, look, people, it's real simple. You just push, the reeds down with a board, and he was just going to show the world that, look, this is how easy it is to fake it. And in all the chapters, he's working on a fake UFO, in his intention to show everybody. But then this real UFO comes over, and now it's like, well, because he personally sees it, and like, all right, he's got no explanation for it.
Now, you're what the viewers and listeners need to know is at the base of all of this, you're a bit of a skeptic yourself.
Yeah.
And so what are you trying to say with this story?
Right. All right. So, well, extraterrestrial life and all that, there's really two questions. Is fine. Are they out there? Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, because there's like 100 billion stars at this point, sort of billion galaxies at this point, and to say that we're the only one would take literally like a religious level of what's the word here? Conceit to say we're the only one. Yep, 100 billion. Yep, we can see it there on Hubble. Nope, we're the only one. The next thing is basically, well, all right, how smart is everyone else? Don't forget, for the longest time, we were a giant lizard planet. If everybody came by, giant lizards for literally 300 million or 3 billion years. I forget where are we, 3 billion. But they had 3 waves of comets slamming into the planet, and at no point were these lizards evolving thumbs and like, oh, we're just naturally going to be, spacefaring lizards, as if evolution is trying to get to where we are. No, they had plenty of time to get there and never did. So, perhaps the universe is filled with just giant lizard planets, and fine, we're the exception. Then the last thing is, okay, fine, if they're out there, the other assumption is, well, have they made the trip? And everyone just, they made the trip. Well, hold on. Who said they made the trip? And I know, yes, many people claim they made the trip. I can't think of any good reasons why they, making the trip, why they would actually contact us, why they would actually go, we know friggin' everything. Hi. I mean, because basically, what they need, what they would find interesting is certainly just through observation. It's like, okay, we lived through all that. Yep, flight, yep, industrial revolution. Yeah, they've experienced it probably long ago. So I don't see any reason why they necessarily have to land, and come into your bedroom and snatch you up here. I mean, that's a whole other aspect.
I mean, if they don't want to be detected, they would not be detected. That's
because my whole premise is you got to give the aliens some credit here. If they made the trip, we won't even say if they exist, but if they made the trip. The other question is like, okay, how close? All right, let me back up a little bit. Okay, so the one assumption we can, and like I said, we're talking super advanced, but one assumption we can make, right, is these people, beings, whatever, have greater powers of observation than us, right? I mean, that's probably the safest thing we can say, right?
Yes, of course. And if they don't want to be detected, they won't be detected.
So the question then is, well, okay, since we all agree that yes, they must have greater powers of observation, how close is close enough for those guys? Can't they just park themselves out by Pluto? Like, we can perfectly see what's happening. We don't have to get any closer. We got it. Oort cloud, Alpha Centauri. So when you just say, oh, they have about 100 yards, about half a mile above us, like, well, you really, come on, you give them some credit here. If they made the trip.
That's why I'm not sensitive to the ET hypothesis. If you had a great technology beyond our understanding and you wanted to check us out, you wouldn't do it like this. 5,000 sightings a year reported to MUFON. This is not how you would do it. I mean, it's just not.
It keeps up with the Bigfoot sightings too, don't it? I mean, we won't go there. But yeah, I mean, on the same topic, as example, the Drake equation, right? Everyone talks about the Drake equation. Okay, let's say this. Let's get a Drake equation, right? Where basically, what the hell is the guy's name here? Frank Drake, back in 1961, put together a formula, guessing how many advanced civilizations are out there.
Yeah, the possibility, sure, yes.
Right, fine. Let's say it's just one per galaxy. One, okay? One. 100 billion galaxies, fine. There could be 100 billion, intelligent life forms out there, but in a sense, we're still alone. Again, if they come to us, is another thing. But we're, like I said, we can't even conceive of communicating with someone, another galaxy. Forget about, we can kind of do Alpha Centauri, the closest, maybe we could kind of get there.
I don't think that's what's going on. I'm not sensitive. I'm not empathetic to the ET hypothesis whatsoever. I do not think that's what's going on. If you're a very intelligent If you're an intelligent organism, you wouldn't do it this way. This is something else. And if you notice, there's been sightings of weird shit for, thousands of years, and the motif seems to change as we become more highly technological. So the same shit that now we're describing as ships from far away, metallic ships, UFO-nauts, these were described as angels, chariots, elves, pixies. The further you go back in time, the description of the phenomenon fit the culture and fit that epoch, whatever it was. If they weren't a high technological, if it was a very religious culture, the motif would fit. They would fit it into their religion. Native Americans have descriptions of these beings that they saw. They don't call it the Blessed Virgin Mary. They call it that whatever female god they worshipped. And so the fact that it also changes like that leads me to believe that we're not dealing with what we're now calling UFO ETs from afar. That's just what we're calling it now because we're high-tech civilization. But if you look at all of the other descriptions of it, you have to come at it from a more you got to say, well, this is completely subjective.
Right. We're just applying what we know onto or what we imagine. You're right.
Absolutely.
No. Real quick, yeah. I even mentioned Donikin. What's his name?
Eric von Daniken. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't even get me started there.
Chariots of the gods. His chariots. Yeah.
I also have my characters talking about that. Which basically, it's what drives me nuts is like, oh look, ancient runways. It's like, really, it's like, so we can't land on that planet until there's a runway built. Like, oh come on.
I mean, yeah, it's such a culture-bound notion to say that those. I love the Nazca Lines. I find them to be one of the most fascinating things on the planet. The last thing I would say that they were would be runways, though. I mean, you think they're landing in rubber. They have rubber wheeled. They have wheels on the bottom of their ships. It's just there's a lot of that going on, and
you're applying what we imagine, or especially most of the people are just taking science fiction, what's been fed to them, because they don't even have any imagination for themselves. They just regurgitate. Oh yeah, I saw that in a movie someplace, and that's what. Yeah, I guess that's the status quo in the on their thinking.
This to me sort of makes your book valuable because I think if you were to if you poll everybody, I mean, what is it, like 50% or over 50% of people believe in aliens, UFOs. Let's say UFOs. Even
because I'm separating the two. Aliens, fine. If they're over there, galaxy away, there they are, fine. Are they here now? Is sort of like, oh, hold on, we have to draw a line someplace here, or at least that line gets very fuzzy. On that. But I play with the expectations. That's why I took all these classic sightings here. The expectation is okay. There's going to be a gray inside. There's going to be an organism living inside of a metal box that flies around. I mean, that's just
That's right.
Everyone that just naturally thinks of it that way. So I'm having fun with the audience's expectation, basically, of what. Yeah, this is supposed to play like this. As example, one character imagines that now there's frozen aliens on Otis Air Force Base, and that's sort of the book sort of ends up going to breaking onto Otis Air Force Base and get the frozen aliens from the crash saucer that happened back in the 60s. So yeah, I'm having fun screwing with the expectations of the audience.
I love it. I think that's very valuable commentary on what's going on because what we're getting in the mainstream now is the opposite of that. So.
Conformity, yeah.
Well, Project Blue Book and the Roswell, these are series that are out now, and they just over and over again they're pushing the ET thing, and they're pushing that this stuff is that's what it is. So I love how your work of fiction sort of puts a spin on it, and I would love to see this done as a movie. I feel like it's a very valuable point of view, and a point of view that we don't see enough. And so one of the best ways to get it out there is through fiction and through humor, as a matter of fact, which is like I find that one of the best ways to get my old acting coach used to say, you get them laughing and while their mouth is open, you slip the truth in, and you're kind of doing that with this book because it's funny, and it's a parody on what it really is, the mainstream ET hypothesis opinion of what's going on. But let me ask you this, because you obviously have studied this stuff for a long time. You're interested in it. What do you think is happening with all this paranormal stuff? And you can include Bigfoot, I mean, whatever you want. What do you think is going on? Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, well, obviously it's cool. I mean, it makes life interesting. Whether it's true or not is a completely separate thing, but I agree, that's cool. And in fact, I had some other podcaster asking, so what do you think's going on with that? It's like, well, it's just cool. Yeah, you know, and the whole thing of like, I want to believe, right there in the poster of Mulder's, I keep getting this wrong, Scully or Mulder here, of the X-Files.
Mulder. Mulder.
Yeah. You know, I'm familiar with X-Files, I just don't, yeah. Again, it's like, it certainly makes life cool, but certainly for clinical reasons, I'm sure you can come up with all sorts of like, yeah, well, if you know, I mean, there's boatloads of confirmation bias onto your whatever viewpoint of the world, and so this can extend out to religion. You know, if that's, you know, yeah, the world is filled with magical things. It's like that certainly fits right in. Again, it's not my job to convince anyone otherwise. I mean, like, yeah, okay, great, yeah, okay, you know.
But do you deny that something is happening? Do you think this is all a hallucination, is what you're saying?
No. That's an interesting. Well, yes, that's an interesting point. I mean, something obviously is there. We get footage. We're getting footage of something here.
Something's happening. Something weird's happening.
Yeah. So I'm not certainly like as a skeptic going, no, nothing's happening. Like, well, yeah, obviously something's happening. You know.
Yeah.
Again, and as a skeptic, I'm like, well, no, yeah, there's obviously aliens. You know. Yes, they could have made the trip. I mean, okay, so I'm not ruling that out. So it's not like, yeah, you're right, it could all be true. I'm willing to go, sure, I could be totally off base. Yep, aliens came in my bedroom, lifted me up, you know. I have all these logical arguments against it, but, you know.
I'm ruling that out. I'm ruling it out. That's not what's going on. There is something going on. There's something happening. I don't know what it is. Do you have any opinion on what else it might be? Anything?
Well, you know, example, even taking this Illinois thing here.
Okay.
Is, yeah, I don't know, government, if you want to go there, that's the whole, now we're folding into the whole government is after it, blah, blah, after us, da-da-da-da. A recent thing I saw on the Phoenix Lights, if you go on the wiki page, I guess somebody had talked about who was there, who witnessed it, right? Again, we're talking about the Phoenix Lights, March 13, 1997, right? Is the two events. There was you know, flares obviously on the horizon that fell behind some mountains, but the V-shaped thing came over, you know, through the town here. Someone said, no, it was a bunch of planes in formation. Someone said that I had binoculars on it, and I saw, and basically what they think is there were warthogs dropping the flares. Yeah, it was a V-shaped formation of warthogs that flew over and then dropped their flares. Yeah. Well, yeah, that doesn't sound, you know, okay, it's too far-fetched. But let's go into something like the Illinois UFO, where the cops are now like, okay, yeah, we saw a triangular thing fly from there to there. It was, they took over, they flew over there, you know, there it is, that's the whole flight plan. Now as a skeptic, I'm like, all right. So you're saying the cops got together and coordinated this, saying, okay, listen, I'm gonna say you fully understand. So now it's like, well, I mean, it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't sympathize with the conspiracy side of it either. I just don't. Neither of those things work for me. Right.
So I don't know, government. I mean, to that extent, now you're just left to like, well, was it something actually in the sky? Man-made. Certainly, there's, you know, all the natural phenomena, whatever, that we still don't even know exactly. You know, okay, could be. Like I said, I never just just saying, yes, this is this. I'm now done thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, everything is a horrible shade of gray, basically. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, for that, yeah, kind of, maybe yes, you know. The Phoenix Lights, yeah, okay, maybe it was, hysterical people. Certainly, there was some, there's always that crazy hysterical person somewhere, depending on how many you get. Again, now folding into like the Disclosure Project, that's kind of interesting. And now that we're seeing people, in the military saying, yeah, no, I was on the radar base, but blah. I'm like, that gets harder and harder to say, okay, well, these guys are bullshitting too.
No, I don't think they're bullshitting, because I think something is going on. I just don't.
Right. So
I don't think it's. Yeah, it's not what everybody says it is, which is why I love how your book is sort of parodying some of the weirdness, the weird interpretations of it, because it gets bizarre. And when you go to the point where like someone's saying these are beings that we should have sex with, I mean, I just love how you take leaps like that.
Right, because I have another person based off of inspired by Bob Lazar, who did the whole thing, right? I've seen the aliens, blah blah. I have a guy who's basically said, no. Area 51's a front. They want to keep the aliens where they crash, and he basically claimed he worked at the Beale Air Force Base on the West Coast, and that basically his aliens on Otis, and that's his thing, and I pursue that. So he sounds very authoritative in that sense compared to Click, the UFO leader. So, by the way, imagine Bill Murray as a sort of Hugh Hefner sex cult UFO leader. So if I ever get the movie anywhere, hopefully the director will say, okay, good, Bill Murray as that guy. And I guess that's what it was fun writing it. It's like, what would Bill Murray as a Hugh Hefner sex cult leader say here? Okay.
Hilarious.
It's just right, and it writes itself. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get Bill Murray on the phone.
That number, right.
I think it's important to talk about what could this possibly. See, my obsession with this is, what is this? Like, what I've rejected what everybody's said about it, with the exception of a few people like Jacques Vallée and Alan Hynek. I've rejected what the UFO community as a whole says that this is. And I just am always, and I read UFO books quite a bit, and I'm constantly just thinking about because to me this is the most interesting thing happening on the planet, is the paranormal, to me.
Well, to me too,
Yeah, and I like to think of things such as we don't really know what mind is. We don't. We've tried to wrap our heads around it, but it's much more complicated. There are theories, and you look at Jung and you look at the collective unconscious, and I think more and more there's evidence of some sort of field of consciousness that we can get signals from, and maybe even give feedback to influence the field. And I think if you can hypothesize this field of consciousness, and there's more and more evidence that this kind of thing exists, and it manifests itself in all sorts of different ways, I think that's where you start to get a little bit closer to what this is that we're all experiencing, and why, when we get the signal from this unconscious, this collective unconscious, when it comes into each individual brain, we have our own little interpretation of it, but it all comes from something. That's why they're all kind of similar, but then they have their own little flavor. It's because of the recipient also lays over their reality tunnel, their cultural background, their early imprints, their opinions, their language. All of that is laid upon the phenomena. That all seems to come from the same place. That to me is what I think is really happening. And then it makes me question, well, what is the purpose of it? Because I feel like there should kind of be a purpose of it. If it's there, is that purpose something like, well, maybe we need inspiration. maybe we need, maybe the idea that there's there's a higher power, which is what religions all come from. Maybe our ideas of religion come from this collective unconscious with a purpose that, hey, we should believe in a higher power to kind of keep us going, to keep us shooting for the stars, or to maybe keep searching for a higher purpose for us as a humanity. That's the kind of stuff that I think is going on, and then I think we're just not at the place now where we can all really translate it properly, and so you get these squirrely descriptions of what's going on, and instead of what really is going on. That's just a thing that I have that I'm kind of formulating.
Or we can just throw a wet blanket of nihilism on you.
Yeah, I hate that. That's something I don't buy into that. I hate that.
Well, I agree, but it's emotional. Like, look, I agree also. Right? That's what you're describing. Sounds very nice. Yeah. Chris, make it so. Prove it, please. I mean, I agree. Same thing for angels. I mean, yeah, Bigfoot's cool. I mean, I agree. I have a bias to, like, especially if it's afterlife stuff we're talking about. It's like, well, yeah, I want that. Yeah, I would like that. Even if you know, as a skeptic guy, yeah, that's my problem. It's my cross to bear. Ooh, that doesn't work, does it? On that topic, though, all right, what I found it, on a similar vein here, there was a Nova special, I think, called Einstein's was it Dilemma, where they talked about quantum entanglement. And are you familiar with this? There was a documentary, basically the whole spooky action at a distance, where one particle can affect one other particle immediately at great distance.
Yes, I haven't seen the documentary, but I'm familiar with that
Right.
theory. Yes.
Basically, this documentary showed that there's some people who basically now proven it exists. Because some people, well, maybe it doesn't. These guys set out to say, no, it does exist. We can guarantee you it's not a fluke of what we're seeing. It exists. Which basically implies there is a whole layer of reality. It's just a corner. Just look at that. Oh, look at that. Look at the little particle. Look at.
Sure.
You know, something else is completely. We're talking probably a whole other field of. I don't know. Probably needs a new word other than physics.
Sure. And so I love that. I love that. And if you can imagine the brain as a tuner to multiple realities, let's say. Now, most of the time we're on reality 3D Newtonian physical space, the serotonin reality. But as anyone who's experimented with psychedelic drugs, which I have myself, you can kind of you can swap out chemicals and augment your reality. And if you start to hypothesize, there's got to be other ways for us to, in addition to the psychedelic chemicals, there's other ways to slip into a different state, a different reality, under stress, great stress, near-death experiences, crazy emotions. I mean, you can fill it in. Maybe a lot of these emotions that people experience before they have an encounter with something. I love this idea, and I totally buy into it, that there are other realities, and with the change of the brain, which we don't really understand completely, you can sort of experience this other reality, whether it comes in the form of a being, an experience, lost time. I mean, you name it. Maybe Bigfoot, maybe. But I totally buy into that. I think something like that is going on, which again, it brings me back to your book. It's funny the way we're all interpreting it. It gets wacky.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Again, it's all theories at this point. So whatever sense makes you happy, floats your boat. I mean, because if you can't disprove it, well, then okay, you're just gonna have to live with it. Yeah, I think there was some SETI guy. I think Seth Soshtak. What the hell is that his name? I think I sent him an email years ago. I think I forgot what I sent to him. But he actually responded and basically said, well, that was an interesting thing that you got to say, but if you can't disprove it, it's like you're just okay, you're just making crap up. Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Whether you're wrong,
yeah.
yes, whether, usually it's we've been pretty darn wrong when we were trying to explain the unknown here, certainly in the past. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's horrible grays, yes, just horrible grays here you're talking about. And I'm not talking about the ones with big eyes either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, disproving, proving, I mean,
Right.
when you start talking about, I mean, it's really not an argument whether or not we can prove it or disprove it. What we're talking about is beyond, when you say prove and disprove, you're talking about science, and I think what we're talking about here is well beyond science. It's like what I'm describing of what I think it might be comes from my intuition and also some of the evidence. But at the end of the day, it's like an intuition. It's a feeling, but it's still a lot more reasonable and closer than I think what we're getting from science or anti-science. And it's not straight up blind belief, but it's also not saying, well, if I can't bang on it with a hammer, it's not real. Well, then you don't really understand reality then, if that's the stance that you're going to take. I think quantum physics is showing us that you can kind of question the reality of everything around us, including this camera that's sitting in front of me. And we could argue that when you go deep into it, unless you pluck a mind into the equation, this doesn't even exist. It almost needs a recipient. It needs a mind to exist. And so we can question all of the argument. In other words, the argument that if I can't bang on it, it's not real, which is what a lot of people who say, well, I need to see a video of this, I need to see a crashed UFO to see that it's real. You're really missing the point here. Your definition of real needs to be looked at, and because the deeper we go into quantum physics, I mean, all of this, we could argue, is it real in the sense, what are we dealing with here? There's no basic stuff at the bottom of reality is what we're learning,
Hold on. I'm going to gaze at my belly button here. Keep talking. No, I agree. Yeah, we should. Hey, man, I should have been vaping, man. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Your belly button may not be real.
Wow, man. Yeah. So, yeah. All right, so how about this then? Let me jump over to Bigfoot. Because let's use Bigfoot sort of again for a metaphor of the unknown here. I always had some thoughts on that, right? The question is, this is much more tangible, right? Okay, is there a 8-foot primate walking around but everywhere apparently?
No, there isn't.
Right. Well, right. So, okay, now, and in the best footage that the UFO crowd, Bob, you ever watch what do they call it? What's the show called? The Bigfoot Hunters or Hunting Bigfoot?
Yeah.
You see that show?
I'm familiar with it.
Those guys? Yeah, those guys. Right, and so basically, now that's much more of a clear cut. Okay, it either exists or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it shows you what, like I said, the mindset of people.
Oh, for sure. The Bigfoot phenomenon to me is something that's separate. I mean, we're not talking about lights in the sky is happening. Mysterious beings that sometimes are referred as aliens, and years ago were referred to as angels, or if you're in Ireland, they're referred to as fairies. That shit is real in that sense. The Bigfoot is I don't buy into any of it. It's people confusing footprints, people confusing poop, people confusing a bear or some other creature, the noise of it, the image of it. There's never been a skeleton. You're talking about something that's bare bones, related to us. And at some time, we broke off from this species. Well, if it's not being found in the archaeological record, it doesn't exist as a creature that is earthbound like that. I don't buy into this at all. It's fucking paranoia. It's ridiculousness. And the people that are out there hunting, it's like, what the thinker thinks the prover proves is what's going on there. If you think that there's a creature out there, you're going to find evidence for it in the form of footprints, poop, you name it. But again, there's never been, this thing has been in the fossil record for how many millions of years? Not a single skeleton has been procured. I mean, just get out of here with that shit.
Right. Now, as a skeptic, yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, yeah, correct. But let's go through it now logically. And this is where I'm going to try to suggest, like, here, let's just go through it step by step logically now from a skeptic's point of view. And as example, let's use, and the best evidence we have is the Roger Patterson footage, right? The Willow Creek footage, right?
Yeah, the famous one. Yeah.
Yeah, the famous one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, okay, that is the gold standard of quote evidence. Yes, it could be a guy in a suit.
Of course.
It could be, right. That's probably most likely the correct answer. It's a guy in a suit, right? Now, but what that means now is like, okay, so we are saying as a skeptic, okay, that a cowboy, Roger Patterson, basically was able to put together a suit in 1967 that looks like the footage. You've seen the close-up of the Patterson footage where they showed the muscles and the, blah 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 blah, and the things moving. I'm like, yeah, that's it's a pretty damn good suit. And the argument is like, well, yeah, we can recreate that now these days, but 1967, we're not even thinking, do you have musculature under your fur? You were thinking basically Planet of the Apes, Roddy McDowell, Planet of the Apes type of thing. But so basically, let's say that, okay, that's proof that a cowboy can fake Bigfoot footage, right? There it is. A cowboy faked it. Yeah, it looks great. Okay. The question is, okay, and if it's supposed to be that easy, or it should be, quote, that easy to make a Bigfoot costume, personally, it's really not, if you think about it. Well, anyway, point is, so where is all the other footage that matches that suit here? And there's a couple of things out there, but if it's quote that easy, surely there should be a lot more of footage there. And I've seen a couple of things like, it's a shoulder blade. Again, so you know what I'm saying. So and from what I've been reading is the costume guys like, yeah, well that's pretty good for 1967. So that sort of thing is sort of the lack of evidence. Is like, okay, well, it's probably a guy in a suit. Then we're saying, okay, Roger Patterson did it for the money, right? I mean, obviously he knew what it was worth to get Bigfoot footage, right? One of the arguments is like, well, how the hell, how lucky can that guy be? Well, fine, because right now these days, literally everybody has a camera in their pocket, right? There should be hundreds of just more Bigfoot footage. Yep, yeah, saw it. Yeah, no, it's all fake. Yep. I mean, just they should be tumbling down.
Of course. Of course.
So yeah, there's a couple. It's a black dot in the distance. But come on, show me something that looks like the Patterson footage.
That woman in California who, was it last summer or something? Her and her 2 or 3 daughters claimed to see this Bigfoot, and it was a big deal. And you mean to tell me that 4 women, no camera? I mean, you're out of your mind. I'm not. It's like,
right. So continuing, right? So let's say so Roger Patterson, knowing that there's money to be made, should have been a book deal. Okay, well, let's fine. He died. He kept his secret with him. But the other guy, I forgot his name, who was with him, who's still doing the Bigfoot. He goes to these couple Bigfoot conventions. The guy he was with on the other horse, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know his name.
Money. Yeah. What the hell is it? Something that. Okay. The point is, there is money to be made. That guy right now, if he said, I faked it. Yep. Me and Patterson faked it. Let me show you. Let me explain how we did it. In fact, there are people now who actually said, oh, I faked it. Like, well, how do you prove that you faked it? And that's a whole funny thing. Like, wait, how do you disprove the faker now? Or people claim that they faked it. But my point is, there is a book deal waiting for that guy right now, and a movie deal.
Yeah.
Saying how me and Roger Patterson faked the Bigfoot thing, blah 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 blah. If he admitted it, there's money to be made right now.
And there's no shortage of followers. It's like the guy who
Correctly.
faked the famous UFO photo that was a fake. It was the Hoover vacuum photo.
Right.
That guy shot. I forget his name, but even after the photo was debunked, he had built a cult by then, and he had followers, and he was doing lectures, and the fact that it was totally debunked didn't turn them off from following this guy. It's like we want something, they want something else. They don't even care where it comes from. They just want to believe. They want to, it's where all these religions come from. People are so quick to transfer their loyalty to some, guru or a leader. People are looking for answers. People are looking for inspiration, and so you could fake something, and then it doesn't matter whether it was debunked or not. You can make money off it. You can get a following off it. You can feel good about yourself for being a leader. You can, Charles Manson. It's like that's an extreme, but people will follow the crazy. They do not care.
Right. So the one question that bugs me now as a skeptic is like, so why does that guy admit it? What? Because there's money. There's tons of money. What? Just come on, dude. Just say it. I faked it. So that's the one. Again, that's one aspect where it's like, well, okay, just admit it. Come on. Again, but again, I agree with all of that. One of the big things for this whole Bigfoot thing is they go, well, a biologist can look at a creature that size, it needs to eat, blah, 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 this amount of food. And people would say, bears are about that size, and they, live out in North America, right? But then the question is, okay, bears hibernate. So you're now saying that this primate hibernates?
And it's not to be found. I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, right. The argument there is like, there's lots of land out there that can get lost. Yeah, okay, fine, sure. So again, those are some just,
I love it.
Questions are like, again, I'm still skeptical on it. Probably not. It would be cool if it was. There's just way too many questions than just, okay, there you go. That footage, is it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wish it was happening too. I want it to be, because I want my world to be as novel as possible and weird as possible. That's not what's going on. I wish it was. But there are other areas of weirdness that you can go, and shit really is occurring. What is that shit? I have no idea. It's a lot more interesting to me than the Bigfoot shit, though. It's like I can't even get into it. Cryptozoology. If it's earthbound or terrestrial, a source, then I'm not into it. Just not.
So, how's this? Let me toss this out here. Now, if you're gonna study paranormal, ghosty things, right?
Yeah.
You have to admit, basically, shouldn't you be an atheist if you're gonna study that? The reason why is a ghost basically should fold in. If your belief is, there's a God, there's heaven, there's or whether it's all spirits or something, still God, but many spirits. I agree. Yes, make it happen. I would like to have that happen. Not to quote Patton Oswalt, say, I want sky cake. I want sky cake. Are you familiar with that
No.
routine? Oh, Patton Oswalt, come on. Point is, I agree. I as a skeptic, as a horrible nihilist, that sounds really nice. I agree. Yeah, I would want that. But aren't you suffering from a boatload of confirmation bias if you are studying paranormal? And that is your viewpoint.
Myself?
Well, question mark to the ether. I'm speaking rhetorically. Yeah, whatever.
Can you be more specific? My own.
Again, if you're studying the paranormal, right?
Right.
You're saying, okay, there's spooks, there's, however you want to define it, and you're, believe that, there's an afterlife, right? I mean, that's what I believe. This is confirming your belief, right? Trying to find an existence of a ghost, which means my spirit has now, floating around or whatever, you're suffering from confirmation. I mean, you want that. You have to admit it. Yes, I want this to be true. I want it to be. I'm gonna click my head. I want it to be true. I want it to be true. Your data, your findings are certainly skewed in that direction.
Oh,
At least an atheist is like, well, holy shit, maybe there's something. Well, look at, okay, geez, I wasn't. Look at that.
yeah, I agree with you.
Rhetorical question.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think that's a lot of what's coming, what people are bringing to the table here. You know, and it goes the confirmation bias, the cultural bias, you know, your religious background, you know, all of these things, the way that you were raised, your education, all of these things they create a filter in which you know, you interpret a phenomenon, or you conjure a phenomenon, you know, because you want to believe it, you know, all of this, it's skewed by all of those things, of course, of course. That to me it doesn't take away the fact that there is something going on. It just, to me, it just confirms that all of the translations of what is going on are completely fucked up because of people's confirmation biases and because of people's backgrounds, and because of people's, some of them, squirrely motivations in that area. You know, people have it, man. People want to sell books. People want to get TV shows. They want to find that TV show has an interest in finding Bigfoot shit, obviously. Right. And so now what do? Well, you bring that to every piece of shit you find in the forest. You know what I mean? So this is what it really does, is it's just adding a lot of static to what I think could be a more accurate study, a more helpful study of what this stuff is. It's being fucked up by these all. It's a social phenomenon. This paranormal, the paranormal groups, you know, the whole the paranormal community is fucking up us getting to the bottom of what this is, because of all of what you say, their confirmation biases, all of this shit, and that's what's happening. And it's a shame. And it's a shame. And then the media just recycles it by giving them these idiots shows, these ghost hunting shows, these Bigfoot shows. I mean, the History Channel one, what was it? You know, Ancient Astronauts. That was just look, man, that's fucked up. I mean, it's not. That's not what's going on. But how many seasons did they get? It's clickbait. It's good. It's entertainment, and it's skewing. It's skewing the data. It's preventing people from looking at this stuff from an objective viewpoint at all. It really, in my opinion.
Again, my character in the book, you just said his what's the word here? His mantra is his viewpoint. Speaking of that show, there's a new show called Project Blue Book, right?
Yeah, I watched the first episode. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I haven't seen the episode. I just saw the Lubbock Lights one here, and let me use this as an example of another crackpot observation or theory of mine here. As a kid, I was reading UFO books back in the '60s. Right? There's like 12 of them, and Lubbock Lights was mentioned, as the skeptics were saying, okay, I think it's street lights reflecting off the duck bellies when they flew over in formation. But point is that they were high up in the sky. They were like, okay, just zip, something flew over way up there, zip. Yeah, that was it. Now, when I saw the preview for this show, there was this row of lights behind the trees, 100 yards off the ground. Like, wait a minute, no. That was not what there's pictures of the stuff. There wasn't, they were like, oh my God, they're landing here. Again, this is basically like folklore just building up. Generally, over like 30 years of time, the thoughts that remember, how they remember it gets more fuzzier. It gets retold a little different. Obviously, these guys took the liberty to just like, yeah, screw it, we're gonna make this cool just because we got a movie to, or a TV series to sell.
Yeah, that's yeah, for sure.
I thought it was, and as an example, well, it took 30 years for someone to write down what happened to Jesus. And whether they got it right or not here, but it wasn't immediate. It was 30 years. In a similar vein, well, this whole Area 51 here, Roswell stuff. Yeah, that took 30 years because I remember reading the accounts as a kid in these few books about the Roswell thing. Yeah, it was just something crashed, blah blah blah. And yeah, it was just pieces of aluminum foil. They showed it. Yeah. no mention of alien bodies. If you look at the original reports in the newspaper, there's nothing about alien bodies in there. And not until 30 years later am I like, really? I don't remember the alien body story, but now there's alien bodies. Everybody comes out with their own version here.
And not,
so yeah, so I'm seeing again this Lubbock Lights thing. It's just like, let's just spin the truth, or if you didn't even know the truth, make it just more cooler. Jesus came back from the dead. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, well,
Yeah.
That just seems to apply to like lots of things.
Sure, and the Project Blue Book thing that you mentioned. I mean, well, when we're talking about a Hollywood movie, of course, they, what they're doing is their first goal is entertainment. And I recently listened to a podcast where they interviewed Dr. Hynek's biographer to sort of like get down to the bottom of what was really going on with him, and if Project Blue Book was accurate, the series, and he just flat out said that it's not quite accurate, but these are the kinds of things that you expect from Hollywood. They're going to tweak it, they're going to make it more entertaining, and so I don't expect that series to be anything more than just straight up entertainment, personally. And but again, it's still, I'd imagine it's going to feed into the ET hypothesis, as they always seem to do. But that's, and this is why maybe your book doesn't get the interest that you would love it to, because right now the cultural attitude is, if this doesn't help solidify the ET or promote the ET hypothesis, we're not really interested, because the public's already sort of skewed toward the extraterrestrial hypothesis anyways. The movie The Arrival, all this crap, this is what they want. So anything that kind of goes against that, I don't expect to see right now in pop culture, of course. And this Project Blue Book seems to be the same kind of thing. But I'm fascinated with Dr. Hynek's biography, and if I think I dug up. I downloaded the report that they released in the Project Blue Book, and I believe, if I remember, he had put another forward on it. He said he took the information, and then just recently, or I think someone's biographer put another forward on it. But basically, this person said, yeah, the guy when he got into the program was like, well, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And ultimately, it was just sort of like, yeah, most people are just, mistaken. And he was kind of disappointed. Yeah, there was a couple that are like, wow, we don't know exactly. But his whole feeling, was just like, boy, these people are just hysterical. Oh, boy, all right, yeah, fine, I'll quit. Yeah, we'll move on to something else. But sure enough, now, 30 years later, it's like, oh, my God, yeah, there's government conspiracy everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Well,
he was shut down.
He debunked probably 85 to 90% of the stuff that he came across, but there was a 10% of these things that he just couldn't come to terms with, and he couldn't, and this is why it brought him back to the phenomenon, because he kept thinking about it. This is like there's something going on here. I don't know what it is, but it's drawn me back in, because it is the weirdest. It's the same thing that draws me to this topic. To me, it's the most interesting thing happening, in our world. It's the biggest mystery, and life is kind of like, I don't know. You live 30 years, it's like it gets a little flimsy. I mean, I've gotten laid, and I've had a full-time job, and I've been on television, and I've been an artist. I've been broke. I've had money. I've lived in New York City. I've done this. I've vacationed. I've done this, and you do everything that seems to be on the menu in life, and you get to the point where the human earthly experience it's cool. I've had a good time, but there's something else going on here that's so bizarre. That's kind of it. Eventually, if you live long enough, I think you get, at least in my mind, for me, as an educated person, I get drawn to the mysterious, the weird, the edges of reality, because reality sort of becomes a little dull. So I want to go to the edges. I'm like, I need something new. I want something new, and I'm brought there. And I think Dr. Hynek was brought there as well, and even obviously at a bigger level than me, because he was around it, and he was talking to these people that experienced something, And to me, I think that's where it's at. What is it? I have no clue, but it's fucking interesting. It's the most interesting thing going on. I would love to know the answer, but I don't, and and obviously it's something that you've been curious enough because you wrote a whole book about it, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I've been studying this stuff, been following it, yeah, since yeah.
Well, Eric, we're at about an hour, so I'd love to wrap it up with you. This was a fantastic conversation, talking about the stuff that I just really love most in life, and I appreciate that. And tell the viewers where they can get more information, where they can download the book, where they can follow you, all of that, and what you're going to be up to next. Tell us.
Right. All right. So basically, you can get the book. Like I said, I'm doing an Andy Weir thing right now, where the book is free in electronic form. If you go to CapeCodUFO.com is the easy URL. Hi-Strangeness.net is the other one. Hi Strangeness. Yeah. Like I said, as we discussed here, I just basically put everything into a hopefully funny book form. Right now, I'm working on a film script version. Like I said, I was a frustrated filmmaker, and they're like, it'd be nice if I could shoot it, or get someone else to shoot it. At this point. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And we'll see how strong my powers of obscurity are.
Great.
Obscure. I mean, yeah. So, but the point is, like I said, I got it out. If nothing happens, okay, I said it. There it is.
Yeah, I think it's great that you said it, and with a lot of humor. I mean, at least the first couple chapters that I read were a lot of laughs in there. I was like, this is great. And as a guy who I come from the comedy world, and so I really appreciated that approach to it. There was a lot in one of my favorite UFO movies is Close Encounters of the Third Kind of Steven Spielberg. There's some funny shit going on in there. You know what I mean? When what's his name's character is making the mountain of mashed potatoes at the dinner table. I mean, there's a lot of humor in there as well. That's why it's one of my favorite UFO movies, and it's why I really enjoyed the beginning of your book there with the humor, bringing humor to this sort of subject. I think is awesome. And especially for me. I mean, I'm a comedy guy, so I liked it. But I think anyone who likes this kind of stuff, the paranormal, they're interested in it, but also likes to laugh, will really enjoy this and should totally download it. It's totally free. Hi-Strangeness.net, and you can download it for what is it, the Kindle, every platform basically you can download it at for free. Fantastic.
For now, yeah.
I will, in fact, I will put a link to it in the description of the YouTube video, so you just click on that, go to the website, and then download it and give it a read. Eric, I want to thank you for coming out and being my first interview for Weird AF News YouTube channel, which is great. If those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out the podcast itself, which I'll put a link to in the description of the YouTube video. The podcast I do 5 days a week. It's weird news, strange news. Not so much paranormal, although there is a little bit of that. A lot of it is just funny, crazy shit that's happening in the world in general. That's a Weird AF News podcast. You can subscribe to that or listen to the podcast on any of your podcast platforms, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. So please check that out. And I'm Jonesy. Eric, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time, my fellow masshole. Yeah.
Wicked pissa.
Wicked pissa.